Yeah, absolutely. Titans head coach Brian Callahan sits down with us now at the combine. What's happening?
What's going on?
Not much. Just trying not to embarrass ourselves more than we typically do at this event. It's just you know how combine week goes.
I do. Yeah.
It's a little messy.
How
are
Depends
you?
on where you're at.
So far so good.
Yeah, so far so good.
No trouble to report. Okay. How's the first month been?
Brian. Excuse me, Brian.
We're not doing this, Lucas. You're not going. That's only for the press conference.
I just want to make him feel at home back in Nashville.
How did you experience our little cat fight in the middle of your press conference the other day?
I thought it was great. It's good. It's good for morale.
Is it?
It keeps everybody
Whose morale?
Mine. No, it was good. It surprised me in the moment, but that's how it goes sometimes.
I promise we're more coachable than that. I've been trying to convince Rand of that for a year. I don't think he believes me.
What would give him that impression?
Oh God, just general day-to-day existence of us. What is the difference between the way that you kind of feel the coverage now that you're at the head coaching position, something that you've worked your entire career to this point? What do you feel that different level of scrutiny?
No, not really. I think we had a pretty good coverage in Cincinnati for a small market team. It was fair. It was critical when criticism was deserved, and I think that's how I felt so far. Is that it's been fair. The questions have been good. People are trying to do their due diligence, and I respect the fact that the guys in the media got a job to do, and part of my job is to answer questions and give you the best info I can give you without hurting our team, but giving you something that's worth talking about.
That's a very diplomatic way to describe how we behave like vultures most of the time, but I appreciate that. So what has the first month been like? I imagine that your head is still spinning to an extent. It probably doesn't stop.
No, you know what? I don't feel that way. It's kind of strange to say this, but I've felt it's not felt overwhelming. It's not felt like there's too much. I felt prepared for it, and there's a lot of things that come across my desk over the course of a day, which obviously I expected. But for the most part, everything has been about what I thought it would be. And I don't know if that's good or bad, but I've not felt like there's been too much on my plate. I've not felt like there's too many decisions to get made. I've felt really comfortable with how we've gone about our process and the hiring process and the evaluation process. I'm excited about what we've done so far.
Are you getting to enjoy the city at all? Like, are you getting to? I know is your family still out of town at this point?
They're still in Cincinnati. They came in last weekend to look for houses. I've gotten out a little bit. I've been to Kane Prime, I think. I've been to good spot.
Okay.
Went to Pilato the other day. I've went out to have a couple meals here and there, but that's probably about the extent.
What are you scrolling Nashville Guru looking for the new restaurants?
I mean, I like a good restaurant. I like a good meal. So, I kind of leave that up. I leave it up to the recommendations for people to tell me where to go, but there's been some good ones.
Okay. Are you getting stopped and asked questions? Are you getting recognized at that level yet?
Not yet. I run pretty anonymously for the most part. Occasionally, I think somebody will recognize me and they'll say everyone's been super friendly and not very intrusive in it all. I mean, it's been good. I do like the fact that I'm relatively anonymous still for the most part. I do feel eyes on me occasionally when I'm somewhere, but
extra camera phone every once in a while.
That hasn't happened too much that I've noticed, but I'm also very aware that there's cameras everywhere when you go out, and I try to do my best to not be on a camera if I can. But no, the reception in the city's been great. People have been really friendly, and obviously it's great because I haven't called any plays yet, but it's been good. It's been fun.
Titans head coach Brian Callahan hanging out here with us at the Combine on 104.5 The Zone. So what I guess has been the ramp up for this? You've been participating in the draft meetings, obviously in the scouts meetings and things like that. That was something you mentioned at the podium that you have always been heavily involved in going back to your time at Cincinnati, and that it's helped you kind of, just for the audience that may not have heard it earlier, it's kind of helped give a more well-rounded perspective in your experience, having that level of participation.
No doubt. It's not like that everywhere. There's a lot of buildings where the coaches, they're given their list, they evaluate their list, and they may or may not even be asked their opinion on a player.
Does that happen to you?
That's happened. Yeah, it's happened before. It's just some places work that way, and it's not – I wouldn't say one's better or worse. It's just how they choose to operate. In Cincinnati, though, because we lack the size on the scouting staff, there's only about 4 or 5 scouts plus Duke, and they're phenomenal scouts, like fantastic scouts. but there's just not enough of them to cover all the bases. And so the coaches become heavily involved in the process, and we have a lot of input into the process, a lot of input in the selection of players. And for me, for the last 5 years, basically functioning as a scout from mid-February till April has opened a lot of perspective on that process for me, and different than what it was as a coach. I see it more from the evaluation side, the scouting side than maybe some guys do. And been out to pro days, involved in the draft room, listen to Duke talk. I mean, I hear every conversation that goes on about players and the process for 5 years there, and so it gives me a window into the other side that maybe not every coach gets a chance to have. And I feel really confident in my ability to, one, evaluate, and two, be of valued input in the process.
It feels like you guys have a similar decision coming up with picking seventh overall right now. We'll see what happens and who gets nosy about the pick, like Rand said.
Sure.
But a couple of years ago in Cincinnati, you guys had offensive line needs. You guys had wide receiver needs, similar to the situation with the Titans. And ultimately, Jamar Chase was the pick. Turned out pretty good player.
Yeah,
pretty good player.
Pretty good player.
Penei Sewell sitting there as well. What was kind of the dialogue for you guys as a staff? Because I imagine there's going to be similar discourse around the offensive line prospects and wide receivers in this draft.
One of the things I've always said when asked about this debate is I had landed at some point in my career, usually in Denver is usually what I liken back to when we had Demaryius Thomas, Wes Welker, Julius Thomas, and Emmanuel Sanders. Obviously, we had a great quarterback that was at the end of his career, but those guys in one-on-one situations could win when you needed them to win in a tight moment at the end of a game, all those things. And so that's always resonated with me. And when we had a chance to pick a player like Jamar, I always just thought back to what that offense looked like, and that was sort of the vision of what we were trying to look like in Cincinnati, with an elite quarterback, elite processor, to find guys that could go win and separate. And the debate was always, well, you got to protect the quarterback, obviously, or you can't throw the ball. And we didn't necessarily believe that. We felt like if you got great players on the perimeter, they can go win versus press coverage. And all the teams that are trying to condense everything and rush the passer, if you can win quick, you can throw quick. So that was our philosophy in that moment. Obviously, Jamar Chase coming out, premier player. There was no doubt that he was going to be an all-pro player. There was no doubt that Penei Sewell was going to be an all-pro style tackle. There was no question on either one of those players,
right.
Their talent level and how they would fit in the NFL. I think that's unique. I don't know that you're ever going to get in a spot where both of those guys
different year
are that caliber of player, where there's going to be one that's going to be better than the other, and that sort of makes a decision for you at the end of the day. But I've always felt like today's offenses, I think you still have to protect the quarterback, but to score points, you got to have guys that can score points. And I've always felt that. I've always believed that. That doesn't mean that we're just going to automatically take a receiver.
You're giving people chest tightness,
yeah,
Brian.
No, it doesn't. I don't mean to say that. I'm just philosophically, I've always felt like the more talented receivers you have, the better chance you have to score points. But that being said, we are in year one here versus year three. We were in Cincinnati. We had a young Joe Burrow already played a year, and we were trying to give him as many weapons as we could. So I think the situations, while the position comparison is similar, I think the situations ultimately are pretty different. So how that shakes out, we'll see. But there's
plenty of time.
There's good receivers and good tackles that'll be available at our pick.
It sounds like, and even in this short discussion, that Denver was such a formative time for you in your coaching career. Whether it's connections that you've had with the staff or people influences that you've had because of the experiences there, both with players and staff. What was it about Denver that made that leave such a lasting impact on you?
I was fortunate to be there from the beginning to the end of that run. So I got to see it from going 4-12. My first year with Josh McDaniels, they got fired. John Fox comes in. We kind of go 8-8. We back our way in the playoffs. We play with Tim Tebow. And then all of a sudden we get Peyton Manning, who changes kind of the whole trajectory of the franchise for that period of time, and drafted some young, talented players in Demaryius Thomas and Eric Decker and Julius Thomas. Went to a Super Bowl in 2013, so saw what that looked like. Probably going to go down as one of the best offenses to ever statistically play the game. And those are some records there that are going to be really tough to break that we set that year. And that was really cool. Losing the Super Bowl was not really cool. That sucked. That was a really tough way to end a remarkable season. That was tough to swallow. We come back in 2014, really good again on offense. Added Emmanuel Sanders, Eric Decker left in free agency, and played really good football and lost as the number 1 seed at home to Indianapolis that year. Really, then they changed coaches. I get to stay through Gary Kubiak, and then in 2015 invested a ton of resources into the defense and really won that Super Bowl in 2015 on the backs of that dynamic defense that was there. So got to see it all from start to finish. There was good, there was bad. There was remarkable wins. There was really fun offensive performances. But it's just that was sort of my formative years in football. I was a young coach. A lot of the things that I learned there from Peyton, from the coaches that were there, are things that I think are still reign true, 15 years later now almost since I got there. So very formative. A lot of things I believe in come from that upbringing and that way of doing business offensively. But it was a really impactful time in my coaching career.
You excited about Eric Bieniemy at your alma mater?
Absolutely. I love EB. I played for EB at UCLA.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, so when he was there the first time, he was our running backs coach then, and so I've always enjoyed EB. He's a hell of a coach, and having him back there is pretty cool. I hope he does a great job. I always root for him. I always hope that he gets his shot here sooner than later.
Why do you think it's taken so long for him to get that shot? Because that feels like one of the biggest discussions that we've been having in the past couple of years, at least on our end for the loudmouths like me.
Hard to say. It's hard to say. These you just never know the fit, the timing. I just hope he gets a chance.
Yeah.
I think he's a really good football coach.
Have you had a chance to meet your outside linebacker Arden Key yet?
Not yet, but I was in Oakland when we drafted Arden in 2018.
Okay, so I think Arden has been on the radio show like 6 or 7 times. We do a regular bit with Arden. It's called High Key Low Key. And so we've decided, if you're up for it, we'll play a little High Key Low Key. You down?
Yeah, let's do it.
Lucas?
Jackson, hit the music. Coach Callahan, we call it high key, low key with Arden Key for obvious reasons. I was toying with calling it high C, low C because of the first letter in your last name. I don't know. That's terrible.
We spent 20 minutes on the phone trying to figure out what the hell to call this thing.
Far too long.
We said, all right, high key, low key, just do it.
Well, we'll jump right in. Coach Brian Callahan, you have yet to publicly comment on the fact that Liverpool manager Jurgen Klopp stepped down from his position literally one day after you cited a quote of his in your introductory press conference.
Yeah.
Your thoughts?
Yeah, my thoughts. Unexpected. No, I've always been a huge fan of his. I've read his book, and I just think he's got such a great feel for his personality. Is something that I've always admired, how he's built those teams that he's been in charge of, and I always felt like I resonated with how he manages people. And I did not think he was going to retire the day after I quoted him in my opening press conference.
Not retire, just step down.
Step down. Didn't see that one coming. So yeah, no, I love him as a coach and a manager. I enjoy obviously some Premier League soccer, but didn't see him stepping down the day after.
the way Lucas's face lit up at your press conference when you dropped Jurgen Klopp. He's in your corner for the rest of the time here.
That's good to hear.
What do we got, Lucas?
Now, word on the street, Coach, is that you are a Formula One fan. So.
Yes.
If you could mold the Titans into an identity most similar to a Formula One team, what team would it be and why?
That's a great question. I mean, it's hard to not say Red Bull, right? I mean, I love Max Verstappen, and
okay.
I love him for the reasons that I love Peyton Manning and I love Joe Burrow and guys like that are just relentless competitors, man, and they don't miss. They don't give you any room to breathe. There's something that I really admire about his efficiency. It's surgical. There's something about that is really pretty cool, and I respect it. And I know not a lot of people like that.
Respect is not the word that I feel like most people use with Verstappen, in my experience anyway.
Sure, and I get that. But I would say I think here's what I see. I see a really young, dynamic McLaren team with two really cool drivers. The improvements that they made last year through the second half of the season, how competitive they became. I see the Titans in that mold. I see it as a young competitive team that's got some room to grow, and but when we get it right, I think we're going to be pretty damn good. And I think McLaren will be pretty good this year. It'll be fun to watch those battles.
2-minute warning, Lucas.
Last one for you, Coach. Now, maybe this has already happened yet, but I was going to ask you, what do you anticipate the first argument with your father Bill being as a part of your coaching staff, and would it be football related or not?
I don't see us having ultimately too many arguments. He's so good at what he does. I have such a respect for how he goes about it. There's not going to be too many moments, I don't think, that I'm going to question what he's doing. I don't think there's going to be too many moments where I'll be telling him what to do either. I think he's earned the right to do it his way, and he's fantastic at it. So,
he knows what he's doing. Just put him in a spot and let him go.
Just let him go to work. I don't. It's hard to say. It'd probably be something. Probably something about my grandkids or something. You know what I mean? Where just like, I don't know. Him and I don't have a very, our relationship is not explosive in any way where we're back and forth. It's just not how we operate, and I'd be hard pressed to find a moment where that would probably happen.
We should all hope to have such a good relationship with our fathers. All right, last one, Lucas. We got to let Brian Callahan get out of here.
All right, last one for you, Coach. Have you taken any poker advice from your quarterback, Will Levis?
No, unfortunately, I'm not a poker player. So, and that's not by design or by any means. I just never got into it and sort of passed me by. I think our quarterbacks coach, Bo Hardigree, though, is a fantastic poker player.
So maybe Levis gets some tips from him.
I think that there might be some quarterback room battles. I think the way I see it. But Levis's call at the Pro Bowl or Super Bowl week was pretty impressive. I don't know how he did that, but
me neither.
But it was impressive, and it seems like he's got a little knack for it.
Brian, we appreciate you hanging out with us. Continued success, and we're looking forward to seeing how all this plays out.
Same. Can't wait.
We will wrap up the first hour here at the Combine. Appreciate Brian Callahan. I'm Buck Reising. It's 104.5 The Zone.